what this is? Of course you do. And if you don't, you probably shouldn't be watching this video. As elementary teachers, right, we know and probably love using task cards in the classroom. They have been around forever, and they're really a great way to review a variety of skills. But did you know that task cards can actually be detrimental to students' learning? So today we're going to talk about some quick do's and don'ts of using task cards. So before we start, make sure to click that subscribe button so you get all of the notifications for any upcoming videos from the 𝗦ci𝗰𝗶𝗹 teaching channel. You're not going to want to miss them. Please, please, please make sure you subscribe. I really appreciate it. All right, friends, so task cards. Raise your hand if you use them. Yep, me too. So I really have a love-hate relationship with task cards, to be very honest. I think there are a lot of cons to them. There can be pros, and we're going to dig into some of that today. But I definitely think that it's kind of like a glorified worksheet, if you will, in my opinion. Now, I'm not putting anyone down who uses task cards. I am not saying not to use them. I'm not saying I never used them. I did. But I think that we really have to be careful on how and when and why we use task cards to really make sure we are not putting any roadblocks, I guess, in place of student learning. So let's just quick kind of dive into some of the reasons why I don't like the common task card, and then we'll get into those do's and don'ts, okay? The first thing is task cards really do not make differentiating easy. So typically, a teacher using task cards will have 20 to 30 task cards. They will place them in the center, and they'll have a recording sheet, and all students go and complete all 30 task cards, or as many as they can in the given time. So you're asking for every student to complete every task card. That's not differentiating. Now, do you want to have 3 different levels of task cards? That's 3 different sets that you have to print, cut out, laminate, and then have ready to go with 3 different answer keys. Like, that's not doable either. No, who has time for that? So that's one of the reasons why I just cannot completely wrap my heart around using task cards in the classroom. So they're just not easy to differentiate. Another reason is they really don't provide valuable data. I have the philosophy of if you are going to use it in your classroom, then it should be collecting some sort of data for you to use to drive your instruction. So if you're doing something like task cards and you are not going to look at them or grade them, and even so, grading them is going to take so much time. Can you imagine 30 kids, 30 boxes with answers in each box? No one has time for that. So the reliable data that you want to get from task cards really isn't easy to get. And then my last con, I guess I would say, is they just don't make a good use for your time. There are so many things that students need to be working on when it comes to the variety of needs of your kids. So you've got, lowers, more struggling students who need to be working on things that, you have identified that they have weaknesses in. You have more high ability students that need to be working on things that are more challenging for them. So if you think about it, you are asking and giving students 15 to 20 minutes in a center to really just kind of waste their time and wasting your time too. So I have really taken a deep dive into using task cards, and I have come up with a solution. And if you want to know the solution, you're going to have to click that see more button below and go and head over to my blog post where I talk about how I have revolutionized task cards. So if you think and agree with the 3 cons that I just mentioned, they're not easy to differentiate. They really don't provide a lot of valuable data, and they really don't make a good use for your time or your students' time. You're going to want to read that blog post, okay? So make sure to check that out and see how I have taken these task cards and completely revolutionized them so where they're going to fit the needs of you and your students, okay? Now, let's talk about some do's and don'ts of task cards. There's a lot of really fun things you can do with task cards, but there's also a lot of things that you want to make sure to avoid and don't get into a habit of. So first we'll start with the don'ts because I want to end on a positive note with everyone. So some common mistakes that I have learned when I was using task cards in the classroom and that I have heard other teachers have learned as well are, one, they can get boring. Task cards, again, I consider them glorified worksheets. Yes, they're cute. They may have cute clip art and fun little borders like, this one does, but it's just answering question after question after question. So you really want to think about mixing it up. What are some unique and fun ways that you can use these task cards in the classroom? So there's a lot of different ideas out there. It just takes some time and searching, but you're going to want to mix it up and try to keep the students engaged every time you do task cards. Another thing, and I kind of mentioned this earlier, is that not all students need to do all 30 task cards. And I say 30, clearly whatever number there is or there are with the task cards you are using, but not every student needs to do all of them. Be really intentional about how you use them. So maybe that's, having certain students only answer a certain number and more students, or these students answer more. I don't really think that's true differentiation, but it's a start. But try to figure out how you can be really intentional about your students' time. That way, again, they're getting more out of it and you're getting more out of it as well. This is a big one. Yes, they need to be laminated. I have had so many where I don't have time. I will reprint them if I need to. I just want to get these done, get them cut, and get them into the center, so I don't take the time to laminate them. And then when I come around to doing it all again, I just sit there and think, I should have done it the first time. So yes, take the time to laminate them. We all know that I am speaking the truth there, okay? Another don't is if you aren't going to check them or grade them, don't give them. So do not waste your students' time going through all of that work, task card after task card, question after question. If you are not going to take the time to look through them and at least give them feedback, at least look at them to see, are they at proficiency or are they at mastery of that skill? You need to be able to collect that data. If you're not going to look at it, don't give them, okay? And my last don't is make sure not to lose your answer keys. Make sure to keep those really handy. I always make sure my answer keys are laminated along with my task cards. That way it's not something I would typically like crumble up and throw away, or a student would crumble up and throw away. If it's laminated, it's important. And so typically that helps me keep track of them. But so don't lose your answer keys. You're going to want them in the long run. I absolutely guarantee you. Okay. All right, we're going to end on some do's, and then after this, you have homework, and that homework is, remember to go and click that See More button and read that blog post again about how I have completely revolutionized task cards to where you are not going to look back. You are not going to use the typical task cards anymore. You're only going to use the new revolutionized ones, I promise you, okay? All right, so things that you should be doing with your task cards. Number one, use them in small groups. This is a great way to easily make sure that you are using them in a proper way to help differentiate the needs of your students. So use them in small groups where you can even just look at it card by card and think, I know Timmy, he struggles with this type of question. So I'm going to give him this card. And then maybe you look through your cards and I'm going to have Sandra here. She struggles with this type of question. So I'm going to give her that task card. So hopefully the task cards that you are using offer a variety of ways to practice the skill. If it's the same question type over and over and over again, find better task cards. So use them in small groups to help really differentiate and be intentional about your time, okay? Another thing is to make it fun. Use things like Scoot, Around the World. I don't know if you ever played Around the World as kids. That was my favorite game when I was in third grade, and my teacher, I remember her name, Mrs. 𝗦cie𝗰𝗶𝗹. She was really big into rainforest and butterflies, and every time you won Around the World, you got a sticker. And I had folder after folder after folder covered in butterfly stickers. And it was all from playing Around the World. So you can play Around the World with task cards. A really fun game that you can try. You can do Read the Room, lots of different fun ways to make task cards engaging. Another way to use these or to something to do with them use them as an exit ticket. So you're probably in the middle of a lesson and you're like, man, I don't have an exit ticket. I don't have anything printed. So you could go to your task card bucket, find your task cards that match the objective of what you're teaching, find one that you think would be a great exit ticket, put it under the document camera, and boom, you've got an exit ticket. Your students can simply just write their answers on scrap paper or a Post-it note, and you're good to go. So that's a fun one. Another thing that you should be using these for are early finisher activities. Task cards make perfect early finishers, and I highly recommend always having something for your students to do and work on when they are done with whatever assignment. Don't just always fall back on quiet reading because let's face it, your students aren't going to read every single time. When they have choices and they can use their voice to choose what they want to work on, and task cards are part of that, then they're more intentional about their time. They're more motivated with their time, and they're going to see more growth because, they have the ability to choose what they want to do with their time. So task cards are a great way to incorporate those for early finishers. So task cards, do's and don'ts. Few little tidbits there, hopefully some good information for you. But the big takeaway is here is that task cards, they can be great, but they can also be, kind of yucky. Yucky is the word I want to use here. So make sure to click that See More button to go read about how I have revolutionized task cards. But before you go, I have a big freebie for you. Also down below in that See More area, you're going to find a link for my brand new task card do's and don'ts guidebook. So you're going to want to grab this link and go and download this guide for free. Not only does it have some of the information in it that we went through today, it's going to have lots more information about how I've revolutionized the task cards, information about how you can organize task cards, how you can use task cards. It's a great resource for teachers just to print and read, to just kind of help them use, task cards. So make sure to grab this free resource. Just click the button below to grab the free guidebook, and it's yours to use however you need. So, and if you do click that button and grab the free guidebook, I will send you a free set of task cards to say thank you. So make sure to click that one to get your guidebook and your free set of task cards. And if you have any task card related questions, make sure to hit me up in the comments, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. So friends, thank you so much for talking all about task cards with me today. Hopefully you walked away with some new ideas, some good reminders, and some new resources like this one, which I never know which way to point. That one. And you can get some more information from the blog post and the guidebook. So you've got lots to go read. Enjoy it. I'll see you later, friends. Thanks so much. Bye.